You're good?
Good evening. At this time, I would like to call our regular monthly board meeting to order. And would you please join us for a moment of silence? Thank you. This time, we join the Board of Education for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know before I turn it over to Dr. Gainey for Sherry's comments, I was just wanting to, I know last week, I don't know if any of you were able to see it or not, but on Fox 8 we had, they did a special story. Most of the time you hear the negative news, but Fox 8 did a report on Randolph County schools because they started the school on August the 17th and they've been in school since day one, some way, shape, or form. And they turned it into a very positive story. It said what's successful Randolph County schools. And anyway, I thought that was pretty neat. And Dr. Gainey, principal from Southwest Randolph, they interviewed him and showed inside the school what was going on. And that was kind of a highlight moment, thinking that we're surrounded, or a few school systems right around us still learning the class, unless they started today. So I guess in my years of being on the board, one of the highlights for me would be that we started the school August the 17th, and it may not be in a perfect world, but we've had kids in class, and you know our teachers they've hung in there. Everybody, the staff, parents, and worked really hard to make it work, and it's not perfect, but it sure is a lot better than some groups have done. But at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gainey for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Cook, and board members. Just want to share some information with you. First of all, we trying to do as much as we can that we normally would do in the school year. We have continued on with leadership reads, where the leadership team goes out and reads in classrooms. Well, we're really not going out and reading in classrooms. We're doing it by Zoom right now. But just want to say a big thank you to several teachers. Spent some time at Rams during the last month with Ms. Fry in 5th grade and Ms. Stewart in 1st grade. Also spent some time with the teachers at John Lawrence in kindergarten, Ms. Hopkinson, Ms. Williamson, and Ms. Skipper. Archdale, 3rd grade teachers, Mr. Cecil, Ms. Toombs, Ms. Eubank, and then Ms. Foster, who actually is a combo teacher, 3rd and 4th grade, and then Coleridge the other day with Ms. Reyes in kindergarten and Ms. Claiborne in 3rd grade. I want to say a big thank you to all those teachers for allowing me to interact with their class, and hopefully we'll get back to where we get to come visit the class. Leadership team members and I do as well. So just want to share a big thank you there, and for all the leadership team members' efforts as well for leadership reads. I want to point out a couple of things that have happened in the last month. First of all, released a video and a telephone message, I think it was on the 3rd of February, as a follow-up to the governor's announcement on the 2nd of February. And in that announcement, it was announced that schools would reopen in grades 6 through 12. But some things, and when you get into the details of that announcement, it was very similar to the one on September 17, where grades K-5 were allowed to open on Plan A, and this board worked through that. And we went to Plan A, we went to 4 days a week in elementary, and if you remember, we opened on the 26th, or went from 2 days to 4 days. But it was a detail that really, with that announcement the other day for grade 6-12, is kind of a game changer. And we had a superintendent meeting after the announcement, and all superintendents in the state were in that meeting with the state superintendent, and it was reinforced that you can do grades 6 through 12 provided you maintain 6 feet social distancing. Well, that was different than what we heard back in the fall with grades K-5. Grades K-5, the announcement was recommended social distance and doing the best you can with it. And if y'all recall, we did some things at the elementary level to try to help them have some extra staffing. So I just felt like that we needed to get that out to the community, and I appreciate the community's response. Basically, that announcement to open for 6-12 really is not going to affect us at this time, and what we're doing with A-Day, B-Day, grades 6 through 12, and obviously the fourth, pre-K through 5 is still 4 days a week. So I wanted to share that with you. We will continue to watch legislation. There is some legislation in the legislature right now that they're working on about this very topic, and we will be watching that closely to see how that may or may not impact what we're currently doing. I want to point out there are school systems that they're not in person at all, and so that is a focus as well. It seems to be across the state from the legislature and the governor's office. Another thing I want to mention is that there was an announcement last Wednesday, on the 10th of February, about how we're now moving on the 24th. Our school system staff members will be eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. And basically, they're in Group 3, and school system staff members have been placed at the top of the list of Group 3, which includes a lot of frontline workers. So that is a good development. However, I also want to note I was in a webinar on Friday. I want to say it was Friday, yes, the 12th of February. And it was mentioned that even though staff members are eligible starting on the 24th in school systems, it still could be weeks and months. So I want to make sure people are aware of that. The challenge we're dealing with right now is the availability of the vaccine. And so I did talk to Susan Hayes, Director of Randolph County Public Health, today. We talked many times each week, but we talked, and so after the conversation, in an attempt to help her with her planning, we did release a one-question survey today, a yes/no survey to our employees. Were they interested in getting the vaccine or not? That was simply to get some numbers so Ms. Hayes would know how to plan accordingly with what the interest was. Had a lot of response immediately to that. But I want to say something about the vaccine. I want to make sure all employees and anybody listening understands my perspective on the vaccine. Whether the vaccine's available or not, it is an individual decision. And that's what it is, and that's what it will always be, and that's what it will be respected by me. That's an individual decision. I've been asked many times in the last weeks, are you going to require us to get the vaccine? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Is the state going to require us? I don't know. I don't make decisions at the state level. If the state requires it, then we'll honor and work within the requirements the state puts on school systems to carry out. But it is an individual decision, and I'm going to do everything I can to get the vaccine to individuals who want it, and I'm going to respect people's decisions, because that's where it starts and stops with me. It's an individual's personal decision, and I'm going to respect that. So I just want to make sure that's out there. February also is Career Technical Education Month, and I know we're going to hear from David Cross, our new Director of Career Technical Education, and I just want to say a big thank you to our school level and central service level individuals who work, staff members who work to help students pursue interest in different career fields. It is a fantastic program in the school system, and it's interesting to watch kids move in different directions because the Career Technical Education program leads them that way and grabs their interest. And in closing, I just want to reiterate a couple things with our parents and our staff and our students who may be watching. Number one, cloth-based coverings are still a requirement, and this applies to during the school day and after-school activities, including athletic events. I want to remind people, if you develop COVID-19 symptoms, whether you're a staff member or a student, please do not come to school. Call your principal, or if you're a central service employee, call your director or your supervisor, and you will be advised accordingly what next steps are. If someone in your house has developed symptoms, please do not come to school or work. Please call your principal if you're a student or a staff member at school level, or at this level, call your supervisor, and we will advise you for next steps. If you've been exposed to someone who's positive, same thing. We do not need you to come to the campus. We'll work with you and let us know, and we will work with you as far as next steps. If you have tested positive, again, please do not come to campus. Let us know what's going on, and we will work with you. And if you've traveled out of the country, just know that you will be quarantined for 14 days upon your return. And again, we need some help on that information as well. We need everybody's help, and we've had it. I was talking to a parent today, I was talking to somebody, leadership in Raleigh, and I was talking about, we've had 30,000 parents commit to helping us. We've had 15,000 students commit to helping us. We've had 2,302 employees commit to helping us make it through this pandemic. And we need to stay focused on that commitment because we've got a long way to go. But we are beginning to see students have opportunities that they didn't know they were going to have back in August. You know, we've got middle school and high school athletics, we have hunter safety, we have marching band. We're getting ready to start a football season here on the 26th, and that's going to involve, you know, football has always been one of those real intriguing events for me at the high school level because it's not just the football team. You have the cheerleading team, you have the band. And, you know, when we get back to where we were in the fall of 19, you'll have the community, and it's a big draw for bringing the community together. So I just want to remind people, wear your cloth face coverings, practice social distancing, and please help us follow all the state's requirements and recommendations for safety. We have made it. Today was day 111 of the 2020-2021 school year. And, you know, I go back to a conversation I had with one of my colleagues in the western part of the state. I think he's a tremendous superintendent, and we were talking one day before the winter break, and he said, Steve, if we make it to the winter break and we're still open, it may be the single most special thing I've been involved in my career. And I'm not getting the exact quote right, so, but it was, and I said, wow, are y'all thinking about closing? He said, no. He said, I just didn't know when we started this school year if we were going to make it to Labor Day. Well, here we are, guys. Randolph County School System has just finished day 111. We're headed down this path 69 more days, and we will have done everything we could to have in-person instruction to the greatest extent possible in the face of a pandemic that has never been seen by the public schools, and not just Randolph County School System, not just North Carolina, but in this country. And I think that is amazing. And as I wrote something Friday night, I wrote something to the legislator about some things, and I hope the community knows that board members for this school system have poured their hearts into trying their best to advise this superintendent and guide this superintendent and support this superintendent so he could turn around and do the same for his staff and his principals, and for that I appreciate it. July 20, this Board of Education asked where we should go, and that was a highlight of my career, to be asked by Board of Education for we're in a monumental conversation about a monumental decision about our school system. And, you know, it didn't take long after that. We were ready to go. We stuck to it. So just know I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you've done as board members and staff members and parents and students to get the Randolph County school system to day 111. It was not a small feat. It has been.
I was going to say, you kind of do it, but I'm proud of it, proud to serve on this board. I'm proud of our staff. It's awesome what you do. We know what you do. Everyone doesn't know the hours you put in, but we're proud of you. Proud of you.
Well, we got a lot of people. Friday night was quite the afternoon got really busy, and with some things, and I've got principals, assistant principals at high schools and elementary schools, contact tracing and doing whatever it took. You know, back, Mr. Cook, you remember one of those nights I said, we're going to do whatever it takes. And we have 2,302 employees doing whatever it takes to take care of kids. Yep. And for that, I appreciate it. This concludes my comments, Mr. Cook.
You know, we could not have done it without your leadership, your group helping you. I mean, I cannot tell you the times that I personally know this man's had to leave his kids' events, he's had to leave dinner with his family.
There's been no vacations.
No, I mean, he's out of town, and he's still, I mean, it doesn't stop. The calls don't stop coming in. I mean, sometime he'll call me 11:30 at night because he knows I'm out riding, or I want tea or something late at night. I'll go out and ride. You still up? Yep, I'm up. And we'll just talk about it for a minute, you know. But he never, I asked him before Christmas. I mean, it was really, really a tough couple. Well, it's been several tough times, but I remember, I said, "Are you worn out?" I mean, I know he was tired. I said, "Do what are you thinking? Is the fight over? And he said, no. He says, not at all, man. That's the key. I'm telling you, it's easy. And I guess that when I watch television, nothing makes me, aggravates me more than a system that hadn't been to school all year. And that's really a sore spot for me, because when I think about our superintendent and our staff, everybody in our school system, it's a team effort, how hard they work to make it happen. And you know what, I'm sure not everybody's been happy, but for the most part, they've done a good job. You know, they've handled it really well. But I mean, without the leadership, and you know, they say it flows from the top. So you know what, they're following your lead, and that goes a long ways. If you send out negative signals, we probably wouldn't be saying, well, 111 days. You know what, we're probably going to make it 180. That's the goal. Anyway, thanks. And this board too, thank you guys, because everyone here, they want their kids in school. And you know what, we could as a board say, no, let's don't do it. But everybody was unanimous, and that's what makes this board special too, because everyone on this board has their heart in the right place when it comes to kids. And that's what we're here for. Okay, so at this time, I need a motion to approve the January 11th, 2021 minutes.
So moved.
Have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we'll move on to the recognitions. With we have one tonight. Tim Moody.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Good evening to you and all the board members, Dr. Gainey, and to all those who are watching the live stream of our meeting this evening. The North Carolina Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development has a prestigious Lighthouse School Award that is presented annually to one or more North Carolina schools that are leading the way in innovative programs and practices. For the 2020-2021 school year, the leadership team of the Randolph County School System nominated Trindale Elementary School for the Lighthouse School Award. Trindale Elementary School's mission statement is, quote, enlighten students, empower families, enrich the future, and experience the Dale, unquote. But it's more than just a mission statement. It's how the school does business every day. The entire staff at the Dale works tirelessly to make sure the Dale experience is great for everyone who comes to the school. They understand that educating children is their main purpose, but they believe how they treat students, staff, families, and community members is what makes the difference. In order to enrich the future, the Trindale team strives to create a learning environment that encourages children and staff to reach their full potential while holding high expectations. So this time we're going to recognize Trindale Elementary School for this outstanding honor. Joining us this evening are Trindale Principal Todd Henderson, Assistant Principal Judy Cable, and Lead Teacher Whitney Aiken, and our Board Chair Gary Cook is going to present them with a Pride in RCSS certificate.
Always like to hear parents, they'll come by or something and stop, and they're so proud of that school. You hear, it's a great day at the Dale. You hear that? It's right up there with it's a great day to be a Tiger. That's what they said in Radford. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, we have two people signed up for public comments. One is here tonight. I'll ask her to come up first. Her name is Kendra DeBera. Mr. Barrett, welcome. You have 3 minutes.
First of all, my name is Kendra Davari, and I'm a mother of 3 children, 2 of which are school age and 1 is not yet. My kids are blessed to live in a home with 2 parents that love each other. We both have full-time jobs. They're very strenuous. Take a lot of time. My concern is for my children getting kicked out of school over and over again. You say, 1 exposure, 2 weeks out of school, no big deal. The parents can handle it and the kids can too. They're gonna be remote. Okay, here's our story. December 5th, we get a phone call from the school. Both of your children have been exposed and will be out. The school's closed for the next 2 weeks, and then it's Christmas vacation. That's 4 weeks. Where do I do? What do I do? How do I work? January 4th, they get to go back to school. It's super excited, ready to go. January 6th, I get a call. Your children have been exposed again. Both girls will be out for another 2 weeks. Okay, great. Any suggestions of what we can do so that my kids can go to school? Can they get tested? If it's negative, can they come back? If they have an antibody test and it's positive, they have the antibodies, can they go back? Can it be less than 14 days? Can they go back? What can we do? Stay out of school until January the 21st. I get a phone call, January 27th. Your girls have both been exposed. They got to go for 4 days that time. They can't come back to school and are not welcome back into school until February 11th. At this point, I've been out of work 9 weeks. Trying to make it work, getting babysitters, because what's the point at this point? They've been exposed 4 times and they haven't gotten the virus. Super excited children get to go back to school this past Thursday. I get a phone call last night at 6 p.m. Kate's been exposed. She's not welcome to come back to the school for 2 weeks. If you add that up, my 4th grader, who needs to be in school, who needs socialization, who needs to learn the things that she's supposed to learn for these standardized tests, has been in school for 8 days since December the 5th and doesn't go back till March 1st. That's 11 weeks out of school. 11 weeks of me trying to figure out how to make work. Lauren gets to go. Praise the Lord, we get to send 1 kid to school. I didn't tell you that the first 10 weeks of school, we had to pay for extra childcare. On a year when we thought we were going to spend about $7,000 less in childcare, we ended up spending $9,000 more. That means the first 10 weeks of school, we spent $3,300 in childcare when we could have spent $1,300. There has to be some questions that we ask. There has to be a way to allow children who have been exposed over and over to get back to the school, to get back to their classroom, so that they can learn. I am not a teacher. Hear me when I say this. I love teachers. We have great teachers. I've never wanted to be one, which means I don't want to stay home and homeschool mine. We thought about doing private school, but how much is that going to cost? Are they going to get kicked out there too? So, my question is, the people that are making the decisions are the health department. The health department aren't elected officials. You are. Please make a decision so that my kids can get back into the school where they're supposed to be and they can have a better home life, because me teaching them is not the answer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. What school is that?
I have 2 concerns I'd like to bring up to you tonight. The first is really a repeat of my last month's video. Is I hope you are continuing the discussion of masks and what kind of masks will be allowed in Randolph County schools. That data continues to show that gator masks are not appropriate, not keeping us safe. I can say as an elementary teacher that our students that come to school with gator masks, it's not a mask. It is a neck accessory, because this is where it stays. It does not stay on their noses. It does not fit them. And if our sports and athletic programs are not allowing gator masks in any sports, any games, our PE teachers are handing out cloth masks for students who are wearing gator masks. why are we still allowing gator masks in our classrooms? I know that we have masks in Randolph County. After my last video comment, we got a huge shipment donation. So we have masks to provide to students, so why are we still allowing gator masks when all the data shows we don't need to be doing so? My second concern is one that many teachers have at all different levels. And I know this has been brought up to principals, it's been brought up to Dr. Gainey, but it is board policy, so I'm bringing it to the board. And that is the grading policy that students cannot receive lower than a 50%, 50, on their report card final grades. The issue that a lot of teachers have with this grading policy is it's not fair. Especially now with remote learning, we have many students that are not doing any work. When I say they're not doing any work, I mean their literal average in your class is 0%. They are not doing any assignments, they're not joining Google Meets. We've reached out every way we can, we've gotten social workers involved, we've done everything, but the students are not doing their work. Some of them are students that should be in person and they're not coming. Some of them are 100% virtual students who are not doing work there. And some of them we know that they're sleeping in, they're doing video games all day, they're choosing not to do their work. So as a teacher, how is it fair when we have a student who is showing up to class but struggles and they earn a 50% in our class because they fail a lot of their assignments? Or we have a student who does some of their work, not all of it, but they're doing some of their work and they earn that 50%. How is it fair to then turn to a student who's done literally nothing for our class and hand them a 50%, a freebie? How is that fair to the students who are putting forth effort, who are trying, but are struggling? That is a concern on a lot of teachers' minds. We keep being told that it is board policy, this grading policy, so I'm bringing it to the board. This is a concern from many teachers at many different levels. Thank you for your time.
Okay. That is all the public comments, and
Can we have, I'm sorry, I don't know how this works, but can he talk to you?
Did he sign
Sorry.
the paper?
couldn't hear.
I came with her, I didn't sign up, but she wants me to
That's fine.
do
Thank
it.
you.
Come on up.
Yes, come on.
I wrote it down, my.
What's her name? Let me. Okay.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Ryan DeBerry, as he just stated, and I have 2 daughters in the Randleman Elementary School system, and I'm reading this because I'm not good at monologue, I'm good at dialogue, so if you don't fire questions, it'll be a lot easier. But anyhow, my concerns may not pertain to what y'all are talking about tonight, but I have strong feelings regarding the fact that kids should be in the classroom, and that should be at the top of the list of all the meetings, I think, right now, which I am sidetracking again anyway. I don't agree with the first part of hers. I see how y'all have a dilemma with what's right and what's wrong, but totally agree with her second comments on that kid's not in school, how's he, you give him a freebie, that doesn't accomplish anything for either side of the debate. But so I may be repeating things you've heard over and over from other parents and in the media. So I want to read some exact words from what some conservatives may call a tyrannical governor, Mr. Roy Cooper. He stated the following regarding opening schools in the state on February 2nd. He says, "We know school is important for reasons beyond academic instruction. Schools where students learn social skills, get reliable meals, and find their voices. Research done right here in North Carolina, tells us that in-person learning is working and that students can be in classrooms safely with the right safety protocols in place." So my question, or I have 2 questions I guess that I'm going to follow up, is what's holding us back, why we're not open? And the second question is, how do we address the idea that we're like it's a semi-false idea that we are open. So regarding what's holding us back as a fully open school system, I don't understand when I look at the statistics that we're creating the atmosphere of fear And the administration has had almost a year now to devise a better plan than what we're currently using, in my opinion. And I constantly hear that we need to follow the science to be safe, for children and families' sake. And I'm all for safety, and never have, and never will want to be sick. But the numbers I see are a 99.9% chance of recovery. Today, almost 92% of Randolph County residents have not had a positive case of COVID. The other part that I think most miss is the length of time it has taken to reach that infection rate. I'm no doctor or virus specialist, unlike most of the board sitting in front of me, that simply get up each morning, go to work, provide for their family. While any death is horrible under any circumstance, we are throttling education for 0.1% When I look at those statistics and realize that less than 1% of our county each month is getting sick, and further stats showing that children are not the bulk of those numbers, I ask myself again why we are not getting kids in the classroom. The utopian idea of no child getting sick is something I cannot wrap my head around. And that leads me to my second point, since when have we found it in our best interest to quarantine the healthy? So they say K through 5th grade levels are open. They have the 4 days a week at Randolph Elementary, Wednesday to clean the school or whatever they're doing. But as my wife said, my daughter's been in school essentially 8 days in the last 3 months, going on 3 months if we keep her out to March 1st. So I would like to know why a better solution for the parents and children of the school system you represent have not been put in place. Schools may be open, but there is a revolving door for the kids that are allowed to come. Oh, sorry. Says it may be a revolving door for the kids that are allowed to come. Perhaps this affected me more than others, yet I'm not here for myself, but for the single parents, those near poverty, those with mental issues, those without enough food, those that may be abused because of the stress this pandemic has caused to our communities, those children that have not died from COVID but suicide. And my wife will tell you that if I had my way, she would be homeschooling our children and give up a new career that she loves, because my default position on things is the person I disagree with, I just tell them to stick it and better off on my own. But I know that's not really the best answer. Jesus wouldn't want to do that. I don't think that helps the people that I mentioned that are hurting or affected. So I figured I would end with a quote from Maya Angelou as to why I showed up today. And it says, "When you do nothing, you feel overwhelmed and powerless. But when you get involved, you feel the sense of hope and accomplishment that comes from knowing you are working to make things better." So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I don't want you to think when you come in here and you speak that it falls on deaf ears. I mean, we do appreciate it, and we will discuss things and look into what or if or how we can do things, and what's changing with, I know Dr. Gainey, and we've been in the position where these guidelines, we just had to follow a lot of them, and it's a shame when it hits one school like that. I notice when you send it out, we get an email, but I guess this is the first time that I really, being honest with you, thought about it hitting one kid that many times. It's the first time I thought of it like that. So that's eye-opening for me. You know, I think about when they're going back, I guess I just didn't sit here and think how unfortunate it could be for it to hit the same kid over and over. That's,
well, we should not think that this is one kid over and over. I mean, this is not a one-off situation.
no, I understand. You know, I'm just saying, it just hit me tonight. You know, sitting here that wow, that kid's only been in school. I didn't think of it quite.
Probably hit one classroom multiple times.
Yeah.
It
So,
hasn't.
I mean, it's not just Random Elementary.
No, it's several.
It's all.
It's all over. But thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I need a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll move on to the information items.
Okay, board members, tonight I bring you several information items. First one is the addition of a regulation, School Board Policy 4700. This was adopted or put in place, is added to the Board Policy Manual on the 27th of January with regulations and exhibits that are added for further clarity to carry out a board policy. I add those to the board policy manual, and then I bring those as information at the next board meeting. What this regulation did is it addresses a section in Student Records Board Policy 4700, which is directory information, and it does put some parameters about directory information and the release of directory information. And if you look in policy 4700, section, let's see what section it is. Our board policy list is section H, number 3, little a. It has 13 items that are directory information for our board policy. And on that note also, parents are given an opt-out form every year, which they can opt out of directory information being released on their child. And with that, it's directory information, several things on that opt-out form that are given every year. Military recruitment, they can opt out of a student's name and contact information being released to military recruiters. Higher education recruitment, student's name and contact information being released to education, institutions of higher education. So we did this 4700R to give us some more guidance. So when people call or ask for directory information, it's, without this, it was a pretty open-ended issue, and we did more detail on what we would and would not approve. So that's what 4700R does. Regulations and exhibits are basically more detail for carrying out a board policy. Every board policy doesn't have a regulation. Every board policy doesn't have an exhibit. An exhibit may be something such as a permission form for that we use, but that is what 4700R is. Okay, the next information item I have is a gift to Archdale Trinity Middle School, and I'll bring that to you tonight. It's less than $5,000 or less, excuse me, and that per board policy 8220. I accepted that on behalf of the board. It was to Archdale Trinity Middle. Bruce Carroll made me aware of it, the principal, on the 5th of February. Run 5, Feed 5 organization gave the school $500 to meet needs of students in school in terms of food needs, and I accepted this on behalf of the school system on February the 5th. Again, 5,000 or less, I accept it, and by board policy, bring it to you at the next board meeting as information item. The next item is a gift to Eastern Randolph High School. Susan Chappell, principal of Eastern Randolph High School, shared this with me on the 1st of February. It's a $1,000 gift from a graduate of Eastern Randolph High School to be used for a scholarship for a senior who plans to pursue an education at a trade school or community college after high school graduation. I accepted this gift on behalf of the school system on February 1. And when I say accepted that gift, when it's 5,000 or less, I'm bringing it to you the next board meeting's information item, and I tell the principal then you can go ahead and start using that. If it's like some later tonight on the action items, you'll see that those items have been put on hold until we get board action. The next gift, again, February 8th, Eastern Randolph High School, Run 5, Feed 5 organization, gave Eastern Randolph High School $1,000 to use to buy food for students in need. I accepted that gift that day on the 8th of February and told Susan Chappell she could go ahead and start using that. Again, it was $5,000 or less. And then the last information item I have for you tonight is a group of 3 gifts given to Trinity Elementary School. The 7th of January, Ginger Bright made me aware of this. I accepted this on the 8th, did not get it into the last board packet. 3 things: Doug and Judy Johnson donated $750 for playground improvements at the school. Liberty Grove United Methodist Church donated school supplies and $100 to be used in the media center at the school. And Bethel United Methodist Church donated $500 for the school's media center and another $500 for special needs of students at the school. So I bring those to you. Do not see how that group as a whole goes over $5,000, but take each one individually, they're less than $5,000. So I bring those to you tonight as information items to share with you, and want to say thank you to all the groups that provided those gifts to our schools. Any questions? Okay, at this time, Mr. Cook, we're going to have Dr. David Cross come in, and he's going to give an update on the Career Technical Education Business Advisory Council annual report. And then after that, we'll have Dr. Larry Chappell, he has a Bright Ideas grant to present.
Okay.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Ganey. Thank you for the opportunity to present the work of the Randolph County Business Advisory Council. The council is made up of 11 leaders that represent various stakeholder groups across Randolph County. Our purpose is to identify economic and workforce development trends related to the training and educational needs of the community and advocate for strong local career and technical education programs as mandated in North Carolina General Statute 115C 170. As you see in the memo, we have leaders on the council from business and industry, education, and intermediaries that support the community needs and labor market demands. The fall meeting was held on November 17, 2020. Updates were provided on several career and technical education programs. The CTE program continues to prioritize providing career engagement and work-based learning opportunities, where students have the chance to earn college credit and industry-recognized credentials. The next meeting date will take place in April 2021, and if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Ganey. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to share an informational item with you regarding a grant received by Randolph Elementary School. A Bright Ideas educational grant was received by Randolph Elementary School on 11/23/2020 in the amount of $650. The grant will first provide funding for the creation of multiple sensory trails throughout the building. And secondly, it will provide funding for baskets of sensory items for each grade level within the building to help students process their emotions and return to learning. This grant was written by school counselor Ms. Jennifer Samolsky and school nurse Catherine Gillespie from Randolph Elementary. If you have any questions at this time, I'll be happy to answer them.
And board members, again, that grant is $5,000 or less, so that's why Dr. Chappell is bringing that as an information item.
Thank you.
At this time, I need a motion to approve the consent items. Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We'll move on to the action items with Dr. Green.
Okay, board members, I bring to you a gift that's going to require action on the part of the board. Want to thank Dr. Kenny Sharon, County Extension Director for North Carolina Cooperative Extension in Randolph County, and North Carolina Cooperative Extension for their work through a grant to provide 17 Chromebooks. I do know Dr. Sharon from a long time back. I know him to be a great guy. We're lucky to have him working in Randolph County. Excited to see him come here and excited to see him reach out to our school system to help provide these resources for us. 17 Chromebooks. The total value of those Chromebooks was $7,388.71. So that is over the $5,000 threshold. So I'll bring that to you tonight. I did accept this on the 5th of February. We have not used these Chromebooks because we need board action from you before we could use those. So I bring that tonight to you for approval.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the gift from the North Carolina Cooperative Extension to the school system. Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next item I felt was warranted bringing in as another gift that required action because of the value of the gift. Whenever you receive 97,500 cloth face coverings, somebody put some resources into that. There was America's Mask Challenge, and we learned about this, and I've got Tim Moody sent me an email on the 8th. We put it on our last video, I think in January, maybe it was early February. But it was a result of a partnership between United Way Worldwide, the Business Roundtable, and the CDC Foundation. We did inquire. The Hanes masks are valued at $1 a piece, so we basically received a gift of protective cloth face coverings that valued $97,500. So I bring that tonight, asking for your approval to accept those. They are in the warehouse. We are continuing to monitor our protective devices for people and equipment throughout the school system, and we do continue to distribute as needed throughout the school system. So we've got these down in the warehouse, and we will, should the pandemic continue on, I'm sure we will use every one of these like we have the ones that have come through in the previous months. And just know that we're continuing to look at these items and continue to replenish our stock of these items as time goes, because we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. So I bring this to you tonight for recommendation for approval.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the gift from the America's Mask Challenge to the school system.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Again, where are we at on our mask supplies and stuff?
We're not, this really puts us in a good situation for numbers. I'd have to look back, but we had the donation from back in the fall. I can't remember, I don't remember how many we received then, but we had a big donation back in the fall too. And that was in addition to what we purchased with our monies, so.
So all we got are reusable masks, or part of them disposable, or?
I really don't, I wouldn't say they're not reusable, I'd say that. I haven't looked specifically at these. But a lot of schools, I've seen, several schools have given me one of theirs, when I've been out and about, so I know several schools did things with their logos on them and all that as well, so.
Okay. Up next, we have Dale Brinkley. Discuss our school calendar.
Good evening, board members. Tonight I bring to you the second reading of the 2022-2023 school calendar. The recommended calendar includes 180 student days, 14 teacher work days, 11 holidays, and 10 annual leave days. The first day for students will be on Monday, August 29th, 2022, and the last day for students will be on Friday, June 9th, 2023. There are 2 scheduled early release days, Tuesday, December 20th, 2022, Friday, June 9th, 2023. This calendar includes an inclement weather makeup plan. The first 5 days missed are absorbed, and days will be made up as scheduled. All comments were reviewed and discussed at the committee meeting prior to making a final recommendation on the 2022-2023 school calendar. I'll be glad to answer any questions regarding public comments or the recommended calendar.
Were there any, what comments were there from staff versus parents reviewing that? I'm sorry, I don't read everything, so.
The ones that stand before we.
All right, I'll try to do that. All right. I just thought, I thought you just dropping something on me.
Yeah, I did try to identify them for Mr. Burgess. Yes, sir. Try to include at least a line of our discussion too on each comment.
So we had two recordings.
Yes, sir.
So you guys met and discussed after these, so you got the group.
Yeah, we received comments through the month of December, and then the committee met in January to review the comments, see if any adjustments needed to be made to the calendar.
So you guys were good with it?
Most of the comments, if you look, they actually are addressed in the calendar.
Yeah. So per calendar law, they couldn't start before August 29th.
Yes.
That's correct, as of right now.
The Monday closest to the 26th.
They try to get them where they get out of school earlier.
And that's why the start of school can vary a whole week, depending on how that day falls.
I really like these discussions.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, it makes you realize they're actually looking at the draft. A few people anyway.
Yes, good.
Now, were you on that committee?
Yep. That's good. Got it printed out, never seen it printed out. They don't want to
So I was hoping that Dale Brinkley was gonna say that was Mr. Biggs' idea, but I guess that's not gonna be. Well, thank you, Dale, that was a great idea.
Yeah, you did a great job, or twice, but you've done that. I think printing these out where you can actually see them.
Surprised you didn't take credit for this. I know.
You can't do that. That was a great job.
I will say, Mr. Night's not over.
No, it's not over.
Yeah.
It was partly his idea because it was a committee, a group effort. So.
You're trying.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
He's trying. We're not following.
You don't need to push it.
No. Okay, so any more questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, at this time, we need a motion to approve the 2022-2023 school calendar. So moved. Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye opposed. Motion carries.
And I did want to mention, I talked to Ms. Grosh at the early college. She just received the information last week from RCC on their calendar, so we hope to have that calendar ready for the March board meeting.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Did you have something?
I just said thank you, Dale.
Oh, you look like you was gonna ask something. Hey, I know sometimes, some of us don't like for me to do this, but sometimes I feel like I need to go off script. And before we go into closed session, I wouldn't feel right if I didn't go off script just a little bit. Is there any, and this may not even be correct, okay? But I feel like those people came and, am I wrong? I think we should maybe talk about that a little bit. Like, is there anything like the days or is the rules changed any or anything changed, like whether it be 14 to 10 or?
So to give you guys some background, in December, the CDC put out some information saying that local health departments and state health departments may choose to shorten the quarantine period after an exposure to 10 days or 7 days if a negative test. Then NCDHHS put out guidance for schools saying that they could only change the quarantine period from 14 days to those lower standards if that was approved by the local health department. Most local health departments in North Carolina have not shortened the quarantine period, and yours has not.
Guilford has though, correct? Guilford County?
Not to my knowledge.
I think they're 10.
But
It's 10
if you're positive, right? Isn't that what we do?
yes, but we're talking about if you've been exposed.
Yeah, your positive is just 10.
2 weeks.
Right, this is an exposure. So your hands are pretty tied here. You have to do what the health officials say. You aren't health officials.
I mean, that's what I was wondering.
Well, see, that has to be told. I mean, the people have to know that.
No, there have been some changes. There have been some changes. And y'all remember, we spent the first half of the year and we went from the day we learned it. And then on the 29th of December, I sent an email out to the principals. I'm looking at it now, and we said we're going to go to the point where if someone has, for instance, if someone is positive and had symptoms, we started counting the 10 days they were out from the day their symptoms started. If someone did not have symptoms, we started from the day they were tested instead of from the day we learned it. So that condensed some things, and then we went from, if someone was exposed to a positive, we went from, instead of when we learned it, we went from the last time those individuals were around that person. For instance, if there was a positive person in the class on the 12th, I might have learned it on the 14th, but I counted day one as the first day I was away, which is the 13th. What you heard tonight is very unfortunate. And I understand that. There was a rule that came out, and it said you can bring exposures back, and trust me, we've been watching this. You can bring exposures back after 7 days, provided the person does not test any earlier. If they have a negative test, they didn't test any earlier than the 5th day. That's the exposed person. Or you can do 10 days of quarantine, but it starts with if your local health department has approved shortened quarantine. And Susan Hayes and I have talked about this many times. And the only reason you would shorten your quarantine period is if you did not have a lot of community spread. But our community spread, I think as of today, was still 11%. If you have the community spread you have, it'd be very, very risky. I've been asked in the last day or so, can we just do our own thing? Well, you can do your own thing, because at the end of the day, we take on a lot of liability. Elizabeth?
Well, and you are obligated to do what the state government is requiring you to do.
And that's where I was going to get to, is that a lot of people don't realize this, but somewhere about the beginning of June, I remember it clearly, because up until then, every bit of this, we were working with the health department directly. And Elizabeth called me, I think it was a Friday, wasn't it, Elizabeth? I think it was, and Elizabeth said, you're responsible for the contact tracing as the employer. I don't know if a lot of people realize that or not, but we have a lot of liability as the employer. We don't have the luxury of just doing whatever when, as Elizabeth says, our state has told us what we have to do and our local health department is prescribed. This is a pandemic. And you know, there's been, the household rule was not in place till about the 11th of September. That's when we increased our, we had to put that in place, and that was if somebody had symptoms and everybody in the household went home. And so we're working at it. We're working at it as hard as we can. That's unfortunate, the story that was told today about the children. That's unfortunate, and I feel for those parents. I do.
I got a comment. I guess the health departments, I don't know, I'm not a CDC expert, but I think the Guilford County, Randolph County, Davidson County health departments, so we're not really following one guideline. Because I know a Guilford County employee today, a county employee, and I asked him the other day, because he was one of the casualties, if you will, of being exposed, and their policy was, this went to school, their policy was, he went and got tested 5 days later, he tested negative, and Guilford County put him back to work. And so that's the problem. I think the disconnect between the counties, there's one rule in one county. I don't understand why our state still, you know, the leeway, they give flexibility. The flexibility is not flexibility. The flexibility is to make a mess. Everybody ought to be following the same standards, because when they don't, you got families in here crying that don't feel like they have any way out, and they see their friends in the next county and they got a different set of circumstances. It bothers them. It's not our fault, it's what we're dealing with.
Elizabeth, you know the system that contact traces differently than Randolph County?
I do not, no. I mean, they're just following what NCDHHS has put out and told them to do. So that is standard. This issue about the length of the quarantine period is the thing that is not standardized.
Well, and I think whenever, I think it was February 2nd, when the governor came out and said, and I know you addressed this in your opening comments, Dr. Gaines, but when the governor said we need to get our students back in schools, anyone sitting there, matter of fact, we sit there and you know, we talked about this a little bit where we said, are they talking about us? And because we're in school following the parameters that they set up. So, Dr. Gates, they have not changed any parameters. I mean, I know I'm asking you to kind of repeat what you said earlier, but that is correct?
The deal breaker on the second was when they said you can go back 6/12, but you have to have 6 feet social distancing. And that's why we're at 50% now. That was reiterated multiple times in the superintendent meeting that day with the state superintendent.
Yeah, the toolkit still says 6/12 is on Plan B, not Plan A. That was the difference that allowed you all to go elementary, was when he moved to Plan A.
And
Elementary.
Elizabeth, you talked about this today when we were talking. You know, I turned on the news station last night at 11 o'clock. They were talking about a back-to-school reopening plan being issued by the CDC. And as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking it was saying if you're in the red or orange, you don't need to come back to school. If you're in the, they had color scheme and all. Well, I think I didn't see anything new there, and I don't know who was waiting for. I mean, this is February, you know, and it was a little bit frustrating the other day in the meeting to start hearing conversation about we need to think about alternative spaces. No, we thought about alternative spaces back in May and June, and we're trying to decide what we could do. It didn't mean what we need, and as you guys know, I have concerns about if we bring back larger numbers and the contact tracing rules stay in place. You know, that's not my call. I have to go by what I'm charged with. And so, you know, that's, you know, another thing we try to stress with people is don't get tested too soon. If you get tested, basically, if you're not feeling good, you go get tested prior to the 5th day. There's a good chance that your test result's not accurate. Now, we don't take the rapid test when it's a negative. We changed what Elizabeth, that was about 2.5 months ago, wasn't it? The only rapid test that's accepted now is if it's positive. The rapid negative does not count. And we've been clear with people as we've worked through things.
I think that's something people have a hard time understanding, including one board member, is why we go one county that's positive. You know,
Yeah.
Is it a good test or is it not a good test?
Yeah.
One or the other. I mean, it's. You know,
Well, Mr. Burgess, the day that came out, we were like, really? You know, but that's been out about 2 months. The other piece that is a little dangerous too is that the incubation period for this is 14 days. And I have seen people go out as exposures and be fined for 11, 12 days. And all of a sudden that 13th day, you talk to them and they're like, I don't think I can come back. And next thing you know, they wind up positive. So there's some other pieces to it. The biggest issue for why it hadn't been shortened here is because of the community spread issue here is very high.
We're above state average, aren't we?
State average, it's like 6.5.
Yeah, so I think we're 11 is what I think Ms. Hayes told me today. So I did have some conversation with her today to make sure that we were still on the same page about this. You know, we're going to do whatever we can do, but there again, if you bring that person exposed back after 10 days, what happens those next 4 days? There's still a 4-day window of that incubation period. And so there's an issue there, and then the make sure that someone doesn't get tested until the 5th day. That's a very, that can be a difficult thing to, you still got half the incubation period left. If they get tested on the 5th day, you bring them back after 7 days because they're negative on that test. So there's not a perfect answer to it.
There's not a perfect answer. And I think the hard thing for people to grasp, especially with the education system, is you have a positive case, and this is probably the right term to use, but you have a lot of collateral damage of all these other people that have to be sent home to be quarantined. But yet at the same time, on the other side of their mouth, they're saying you have a better chance not to get it in school than you do outside of school. So then I guess I don't understand why we're sending so many, and not Randolph County, but the way the protocol is set up, why are we sending so many people home? I mean, why not just address the one that tested positive? And I think that's when parents want to get involved and say, well, look, I'll sign whatever just to keep them in school. I mean, but then again, if that person does get sick, then,
It's just all that tracing.
That
You don't
is.
realize what one person comes in contact, even when you're keeping them in,
But if you said that there's not a uniform, not a standard quarantine period?
Just on this one issue of the exposure, so there was a standard of 14 days. Then the CDC gave everybody an option to reduce that. So the CDC's guidance says it's 14 days unless your local conditions approved by your local health department allow for a shortening. And North Carolina DHHS basically took that same approach towards schools and said, you can only shorten it if your local health department has shortened it.
Did it have to be in a different color code to be able to do that?
No.
Okay.
But Elizabeth, the other thing, and you and I I don't know if we've talked about this or not, but, there's another piece in all this literature of the updates, and Liz does a great job. When it comes out, she does an update to all of us, the different, I guess, all the school systems you work with, right, Elizabeth? And it's very concise and it's good. There's another piece to it, the part about, and I was reading through everything again this morning, and way back when, it was the option of whether if you'd had it, you can't get it again for 90 days. And if you look back in one of the handouts, that was an option, and that's something we have used.
Yeah, that's true, that's not standard.
So it wasn't at first, we have used that. So there are cases now where, we've had a situation where we got exposures, and all of a sudden, a principal said, wait a minute, I've got these people who've already had it. We go look and see how long ago they've had it, and it's inside of 90 days, so that's helped us some. I
We
mean,
don't do that with kids though. Like
Yeah, we do.
If a kid's positive, they.
it's anybody's had it, can't have it again for 90 days, and that's helped. And I'll be honest, as our scores, as our numbers went up, I had to wonder, would that go away? And it hasn't. It's helped for, I guess, about 3 months now, Elizabeth, probably, would you say, we've been operating with that?
Here in Randolph County,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, maybe you guys can help me with this. This may be for you or Dr. Gainey. I heard the word minimal social distancing coming up lately, that may be a part. I know the Congress and House is still discussing things. That minimal social distancing is supposed to be 3 foot. If that comes up, how will that affect us?
Well, that's a great comment, because I heard that this weekend, and I don't know if I told you that, Elizabeth, we were talking this morning, but maybe I told Ms. Hayes that, there is a conversation going on based on what I heard this weekend. The CDC may release that the social distancing, I think that's who it's attributed to. So if someone from CDC is listening and you're not a part of that, then I heard that the 3 feet. Now, what does that do? Well, what does that do? That helps 612, but what does that do with possible issues inside the schools? I don't, time will tell.
Even if it was 3 feet,
It would allow more people out.
the best it could do was maybe 50%.
I don't know, you look at those,
But it's still got to go by your size improvements.
yeah, think about a desk. A desk is they're probably 3 feet
Yeah, that's what I
apart.
was gonna say.
The problem will be
Pretty
the
close.
hallways and what do you do in the cafeteria, but that's probably your biggest challenge if it goes to 3 feet, because particularly talking about the high school level, kids walk on their own, but.
Well, I mean, even stadiums, you start going from 6 to 3, you got a lot more people that can be.
Yeah.
That increase the number.
Dr. Gainey, am I looking at this incorrectly? If it was reduced to 3 feet, so that, if middle school and high school could go the way we're doing K-5, as far as 45 days a week, but the contact tracing in the 14-day quarantine does not change, what would that mean to our middle schools and high schools then?
Mr. Burgess, I'm not going to
I
tell
know
you.
they're around each other more than they are in the elementary.
I'm not going to tell you it's a slam dunk that numbers will go up. I don't know. I have this other, Mr. Cutler, to your comment about it's not happening in schools. Think about it. They're wearing masks. They're keeping apart, and I don't know what happens away from school. Okay, I don't know what happens there, Mr. Burgess. I would like a chance to get more days at 612 if we could. I just think we'll just have to hold on. If we go there, if it winds up being 3 feet and we go there, we'll just have to hold on and get it done the best we can, but what it does to Does that mean some of our remote students would come back? I don't know at this point. Would it mean we could bring A-Day and B-Day kids that are coming in person on campus together? I think that's a real option, like we did at the elementary level. I will tell you, when we went 4 days at the elementary level, I think it was Justin Pugh the other day, he mentioned there was only 8 at one grade level that were still remote. It has brought that number down. I don't know what it would do for the high school, middle school students who've been remote all this time, or are remote right now, whether they would come back if we went 4 days a week. I'd like to make a little run at that fourth quarter if we could, see if we could help some.
That'd be nice.
Well, I'd like to think that the middle and high school are more responsible, and they're gonna keep their mask on better. Because I think sometimes you got
Well, you
five,
said they're safe at school.
when you got a 5 or 6 year old,
I'm sure they do.
Hey, you know what, though? I've been in those elementary schools. Those little guys are doing what they're.
Well, I'm not saying they're not doing.
They are, I mean, you know, I think we all want
I love the elementary
how
school.
that would go. But, those little guys are, probably the unfortunate thing about all this is about 25 years from now, some of these kids are gonna think about how kindergarten, first, second, third grade was, and that's unfortunate, because we didn't have that. We had a lot more freedom than they have right now, and that's what really breaks my heart, is seeing that, you know. And of course, I'm not discounting the other children. I mean, you know, this senior class is getting ready to miss a bunch of stuff. They already have missed a bunch of events and stuff that they normally would have. So it's different things.
But under the way in elementary school, you know, where a teacher may be around 20 kids, maybe 25 kids, probably the middle school and high school, going to be around, 120, 150 kids. So if you have a teacher that contracts it, you know, in elementary school, they're sending 20, 25 kids home, versus in high school could be 150, 160 kids possibly. So that's what I'm asking, is like if we were forced, I don't know if that's the right word or not, Elizabeth, but if we were required or whatever by our local health department to contact trace and the way we're doing it and quarantine them for 14 days, unless that changes, it's just going to be even worse in middle school or high school. Am I wrong on this? Okay, we're going to sit home more. So
Help.
And you have, how many high schools?
I don't know that it's I want to make sure I don't know that it's the health department is, we've got to.
I'm not blaming the health department.
I know, but I think we've got to talk about statewide some things. It was mentioned here a little bit about from one county to the other. I think there's a statewide conversation that needs to be had if what you're saying, Mr. Burgess, happens.
Right.
Because, and it'll all be a variable, we don't know what it'll play out. Do we have a bunch of remote students who come back for that fourth, if we were to be able to do something, you know, I don't know.
But to this family who was here tonight, to what they were speaking of, and you already said this, you know, they weren't speaking for themselves, and I know they were speaking for themselves, but I imagine there's a lot of families in that same situation. You know, this was not just an isolated case. You know, what they were asking is, can anything be done that when they have another kid that's exposed for the 4th, 5th, or 6th, whatever it is, can anything be changed as far as the 14-day quarantine period?
Are those people like in that school, have you looked, is that a student? I mean, that's hard. Or staff, when you come back, is staff going or students? Do you know on average at that particular?
No, and I probably.
We can't go into that level of detail.
But here's what I'll tell you, what's been interesting in watching this, not interesting because I wish we were doing some other things, but it's the game that we're dealing with. And I don't know, I'm not saying it's the situation we're dealing with. It's like when it gets out of place, one week it won't let up sometimes. It just won't let go of the school. You know, and y'all see it because of stuff I make you aware of. It's like, can we just get away from this school for a day, then we can get on? We had it Friday with the school, and it just went on into, you know, into the night every time the principal called me, and I knew we weren't gonna talk about anything COVID Friday afternoon. But that's what I've seen, Mr. Cook, is it's not necessarily who it is, it's necessarily, it just winds up, it's just unpredictable, but then all of a sudden it's, it won't go away at school for a couple of days.
And we'll keep looking, that's one thing we can do. And I do have one more question to the lady that was teacher, public comments. I know a couple of us had this conversation earlier. If the gator mask is not recommended and you hear that they don't work, supposedly, and we have, what, 97,000 regular masks. No one has sent us any gator masks. Should we, we're not asking, we're not being mask police, we ask you to wear a face covering. Should we tighten it up? I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
There's different science on the gate. There's different, some people say it's good, some people don't.
Well, I understand that, but I'm thinking, we had in a basketball game, a kid had a mask on and was called, questioned, and then the referee had on a gator. So who's right in this? I mean, if you've got the gator and you question the mask, I mean, should we just leave it or say our face coverings? Would it help if we said, look, wear our face coverings, we're not mask police like that, but we prefer you wear no gators? Are we at that?
This was brought up, I want to say last month, and I researched it with our safety officer. And there was a challenge on the gator back in the summer, and it went away. It was reversed, and the only thing the state is requiring is a face covering. It was brought up I want to say.
Well, I think some of it is, it's like High School Athletic Association's requiring over the years, and then the gators. So some of them think it's not.
The referees have the gators.
I think some of them do, yeah.
So that, I mean, it's like a double standard.
Well, that's what, you know, I talked to Greg Brewer, our safety officer, after it brought up, I think it was the January meeting, and there was a challenge to it back in the summer, but it was reversed. And the requirement in the state of North Carolina is a face covering. Quite frankly, the 2 times it's been brought up is the only times I've heard it. And I'm not saying that I hear it 500 more times tomorrow, you know, but I would just tell you, you know, you're watching college football and they're wearing gaiters. You're watching Major League Baseball and they were wearing gaiters. I don't recall seeing a Major League Baseball player wearing. I just don't recall seeing the mask. Maybe I just saw more of the gaiter.
I don't think so. High School Athletic Association, but I don't know if it's just basketball. You may know more of that. I think baseball here, they're gonna wear gators.
I think the CDC changed their position on gators in December too. I'm gonna look at it, I think that's right.
I mean, my question was if that's something we need to look into, you know, from, you know, whatever's the safest, I would be in favor of it.
So, in response again to what this family was asking here, and I just want to make sure, because it is something that we're going to hear a lot of in the coming time, is as a board, as a school system, do we have any options other than a 14-day quarantine?
Could we go to 10 days? Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking just any other option, Elizabeth.
No, not at this time.
But if that is not state, that's due to Randolph County, correct? The guidance.
Well, the guidance is across the state 14 days unless your local health department says otherwise.
Okay. So our hands are tied.
Yeah.
And that's something that needs to be said. I mean,
So, on the gator issue, I'm not sure I'm following direction from the board, because the last board meeting, I researched it. with our officer. Is it the board's desire that we say no more gators in the?
I don't want to mandate any mask. I don't think we would do that. I just think it's conscious.
I was just curious if just asking the question, I didn't know.
Yeah, I guess what I got back when I researched it with our safety officer was what I was saying to you. I did not.
I think anything's better than nothing.
Well, that's the state's stance is you gotta wear something.
Yeah, I mean, they just wear the gaiters, at least make sure to wear them properly. Well, I mean, most of them you see, just right here. While we on the gator issue, hit the next issue about the 50 grade average, grade average. She said that was our policy. Where did we receive that from? From the state?
That's not a board policy. It's not in our board policy manual. It is a recommendation that's been in this systems for years before my time. The question I have is what's the difference in the F as a 50 and the F as a 10? As a classroom teacher, I can tell you many times where I had students who didn't do well. Back in those days, it was a year-long course, and before the block came about, and I'd have students who struggled. And then they decided they were going to put more energy into it and more effort. And I had to weigh the fact that, was I going to make a great second semester extinguished because of the first semester may not be great, but knowing to have a great second semester, they had to put forth a lot of effort for extra help to kind of relearn what they missed. I would say, I understand the technical piece. I get that. I totally get that. But our job is to get students to graduation. And our job is to move kids along the continuum. And it is a recommendation. It's not a board policy. And so I don't know who is, if it's in our board policy manual, I'd like somebody to show it to me because I don't know where it is. And there's been very clear recommendation on that. And it's all about, what do? You give a child a 4 average. And again, I understand this conversation. That somebody may want to have with me. But school is about learning. And school is about moving kids along. As far as not, I don't mean moving them along, I mean moving along in the academic achievement process. And so, I had this discussion many times with teachers on my staff. And, you can make a recommendation, and that's what it is, a recommendation. And so that's what it's been all along. No one's been told, and this was going on before my time, but it is not in our board policy manual. And so, to my knowledge, if somebody knows where it is, I would like them to show me, because I probably would take issue with it being in our board policy manual if it is. So,
You got the whole book there.
That's my book.
Okay.
but one of the things we have worked very hard with is there's a difference in a practice and a board policy. And that's what we work very hard, we spend a lot of time on board policies in principals meetings, and y'all know, some of you know, we went through the board policy manual. We spent about 3 years revising the policy manual. There were some policies that were out of date, needed some attention, and we spent a lot of time on board policies. So, and I've gone back when this has come up. It came up a lot in spring last year during the school closure, and I've gone back and reviewed with staff that are involved with that, with great questions. And so I'm open to whatever conversation, and I'm not saying everybody has to see the world the way I do, but there's a part of a child can't recover that does really bad unless they're willing to put some effort into the next steps and the steps in this.
I mean, the thing you look at, back when the grading scale was on 70, and it was passing 50, yeah, they would have to work real hard to get it back. Now, I mean, do they have to work real hard to get back from 50 to a 60? But like you said, the practice was here before you were here, and that's, you know, it's swayed a little bit to the easier side. And, I mean, I understand what you're saying, I agree with what you're saying. But also, I believe personally, you don't reward somebody for doing that. And I know these kids out here, some are doing that. I hear it every day. That's why I ask.
Yeah, and I would tell you, even at a 50, for a child to get to pass, and if a teacher was to choose to say, I'm going to do a 50, even at a 50, to get to a passing grade for the course, is going to take a lot of effort. You know, what I talk to people about is, employees, you've got to keep learning, because you can't tell me you're going to start doing differently with your desire to learn when you get in the next position. You know, so if you want to be a principal, then when you're in that assistant principal role, you've got to be looking at what that principal role entails. And you can't wait till you get to be a principal to all of a sudden decide what policies are important, or following certain protocols are important, because, so it's kind of, that's, you know, this discussion could, you know, I know that, I know it's a difficult discussion, people, about this topic at times, but that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult time right now. I mean, you know, COVID's made the whole world difficult, a lot more difficult than what it was. And this is code loops and everything.
Okay, so we'll continue following up if anything changes on that other two.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys, for discussing that.
I move that the Randolph County Board of Education will enter into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute to preserve the current attorney-client privilege and to discuss confidential personnel matters protected by the North Carolina General Statute.
Okay, we have a motion to go into closed session. Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in closed session.
You good?
All right. We're back in open session, so I will need a motion to approve the certified personnel report.
So moved.
Have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, need a motion to approve the classified personnel report. Have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.